and welcome to a new Dynasty Mind. My name is Chris Chung at underscore FF Dynasty. You are welcome to a new episode of a Dynasty Mind. Tonight I am joined by Travis May. How are you doing tonight, Travis?
I'm doing well. Always glad to just join you and talk some devy and anything to do with football. I'm always game for that. So thanks for having me.
No, man, thank you for taking your time. We were recording this in the middle of a very, very busy season. The free agency just opened up. We heard millions and millions of rumors from Monday through Tuesday, and now things have been realized. Nobody has pulled a Frank Gore yet, and so we expect people to land where they are. And it's exciting because football doesn't seem to stop. We call this the off season, but we're constantly being watching for values shifting, watching for players where they land, what money they get, debate about their roles. So, for your sense, what has been things that stood out for you? Maybe even talk a little bit about what the Titans are doing.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of news to ingest, and the Titans for sure have been just it's been kind of interesting to see because they haven't had the overhyped moves. They haven't traded for Odell Beckham Jr., but they've made some pretty practical signings with Saffold at guard. They needed better interior line play. Humphreys being their slot wide receiver now, that helps them probably on third downs and really just moving the chains a little bit more. They're re-signing Kenny Vaccaro. Really just making some smart moves that are not crazy expensive over the top. So I'm really excited for that. I think they're kind of close. They just need to stay healthy, especially at the quarterback position. So I'm excited to see what that holds this season. But the AFC South definitely is continuing to get a little bit more difficult to actually win. So I really don't. I'm not exactly confident that it's going to be the Titans' year.
Oh man, it's funny you say that because in my mind, whereas the Titans are making smart moves, protecting Mariota is their first priority here, and that's with the Saffold signing and giving him a underneath target in Adam Humphries, which I think was very smart to complement Corey Davis. They know their limitations with Tajay Sharp, and now Taywan will probably have more of a role, more or less on the outside. But when you said the AFC South is getting harder, it doesn't really lend to it when the Jaguars decide to give Nick Foles a massive contract.
Hey, it's anything's better than Bortles. So
You think
I
so?
think
Oh man.
I think so. So I think they're going to do okay. They're probably going to be last in the division, but as long as Andrew Luck is healthy, he's going to be really
Yes.
hard to beat. The Titans just cannot beat the Colts with a healthy Andrew Luck. So until that changes, I'm not super confident, but we'll see.
It certainly is exciting to see Andrew Luck and Mariota duke it out for several seasons to come. Both are still young. And of course, the whole NFL is changing too. The AFC has gotten harder in general, with Browns being a powerhouse. With the Odell Beckham signing and adding Kareem Hunt, I don't know which role he plays, but it certainly is a good time in Ohio right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Pretty sure Baker Mayfield is still dancing for joy, just going crazy right now. I don't know what I would do if I was the quarterback. And oh, by the way, you already had some decent weapons. Here's Odell Beckham Jr. While we're at it.
Yeah, um, great for him. Great for his start to his year, and the Browns are not sitting on their laurels while the Pittsburgh
No.
are losing talent, losing Odell Beck. Sorry, Antonio Brown, but Antonio
Yeah.
did decide to stay in the AFC. So again, AFC doesn't get any easier.
No.
Okay, so before we get started into today's kind of topic, I want to give a shout out to my media hero, Mina Kimes of ESPN. Very, very big fan of hers, and I always give a shout out before the show start. Anybody that you want to give a shout out to before we get started, Travis?
Shout out to people that just anyone in general.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to my wife for putting up with this this hobby that at least pays for my grad school, so that's nice. But so shout out to her. Shout out to my family for having me be so interested in sports. And yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. We really, really are grateful for the understanding family members, even though they don't understand why we're so obsessed.
Not quite, no.
Right. Sometimes I don't even understand, but I love this. I love it. I really love it. So let's dive in then. Travis, there's been a lot of changes, not just for the NFL, but for yourself as well, personally. You have moved to RotoViz and Dynasty Command. Tell me a little bit about your transition. How has your responsibility changed? What have been some things that you're doing? And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the DLF family was awesome and is awesome and will forever be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I just had an opportunity to join the Dynasty Command Center and kind of contribute to their rookie guides and a lot of what they're doing. I mean, we got roster analytics and I mean, check it out at dynastycommandcenter.com. The new rookie guide that's coming out, just a blast. Been putting that together, but really the devy focus and being able to kind of take that content for RotoViz and just kind of make it my own with the team that they already have in place there. That's going to be a lot of fun. But still doing a lot of devy content, still doing a lot of dynasty content, and probably going to be doing some more video content as well in the near future. You know, having the touchdown time with Travis videos I used to do,
Yes.
trying to bring that back. So we'll see what that looks like exactly. But just really excited about the future and thankful for all the opportunities I've been given so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And before the end of the show, I will let people find the opportunity, how they can find your work. And I love that you are now able to give a little bit more focus, or maybe you've always had focus on the devy. Last time that we spoken, you've kind of allowed us to see how you married metrics with videos, film watching, and you're continuing to do that. Now, I understand that in for the devy kind of realm, that's a little bit more difficult, right?
Yeah, I'd say so because you're working with less information, and that's the problem. I mean, if we were working with a complete profile for production, complete profile for film, and they were ready to come play on on Sundays,
Mm-hmm.
like in the next few months, then it'd be a lot easier. But sometimes we're messing with just high school film
Mm-hmm.
and selecting these players in devy leagues. Sometimes we're and really film is I use that term loosely because it's just highlight reels with a circle around the player pre-snap.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so we're working with limited information for sure. So it's a lot of trait analysis, but trying to see when they break out and but also seeing what we can glean objectively from the limited film that we do have. And so that's really been my project over the last year, just trying to standardize my process in terms of gleaning information that's not just we're jotting down notes about traits on players. I want to see exactly what is happening on every play, what personnel package are they in, what defense are they playing against, like how many guys are in the box, what exactly happens and how do they succeed, and then yards after contact and things that you really can't argue with
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, and meld that with the subjective analysis and traits there too. I think it's important to kind of balance film and analytics when delving into Dynasty and devy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very glad that I get to invite you on to kind of close out my Devi series. And today, as you'll all get to see, get folks, we're going to be talking about Eno Benjamin later on, and he is an exciting, exciting prospect. We'll go into diving into Travis's mind and as to what he sees, how he processes the information, and how he can let us know who to look out for. But before we even get there, did we kind of touch on what have you learned from the 2018 season and what are you going to bring to the 2019 season as far as dynasty fantasy football goes?
I think it's just really important to have a balance in everything, and being able to test what you've seen by the numbers, being able to test it on and really confirming in both directions. Did the numbers verify the film? Did the film verify the numbers? And building models and really just having a kind of a more measured outcome and a more measured projection to what I'm doing. I think that's just shown to be super important. And really, I've learned that in my real job, implementing some things I've learned in my grad classes for business analytics
Nice.
and projecting future sales and contracts and things like that. And so building that into Dynasty was just kind of the natural next step because on my lunch break, that's what I'm doing. I'm charting running back snaps and building models based on production profiles because that's what everyone does, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely. Right. That's awesome, man. It's great that you are able to meld, just integrate some of the things that you learn, apply it in real life. That'll help you in job, but also help you in this crazy thing that we love to play, for what, a quarter of the year.
Or the whole year,
Oh yeah, or
whatever.
the whole year. Yeah, it's applied through the whole year, but the quarter of the year that we pay attention to, that's when we see if all our preparations is coming to fruition.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, and that's awesome to hear. And I'm looking forward to seeing the growth and your process and how that information is applied, and we can all benefit from it because, like, not all of us are capable of watching film or understanding the metrics, and you just bring it down to a level that even I can understand. I don't have any background in statistics or any background in scouting, and yet the information that you bring on Twitter, on your work in articles, really does craft this idea and help me make better decisions. So, going into our next segment, I want to talk a little bit about devy values. Now, a lot of times, I've played devy leagues for roughly 4 years now. I've gotten a sense of who to pay attention to. My love for college football helps a lot. Are you a college fan too?
Big time. Yeah,
Big
I
time.
went to Purdue, and they're more of basketball most years, but every once in a while they'll have a good team for football, and we got a
Tony.
bunch of family ties to Auburn, so definitely root for
Auburn.
them too. Which was
Yes.
weird going to that bowl game, by the way, which was in Nashville, Purdue and Auburn. That was a blowout,
Oh man,
but still fun.
that is awesome. And Purdue had a great year last year. I think they put themselves on the national attention. And one of the players that I talked about with Nick last time was Rondale Moore. He'll be great for Purdue for years to come. And of course, Auburn is just right down the couple of hours for me down south. So hey, I'm connected in that manner. But yes, college helps me to start paying attention to some of these names. But yet, after I draft a player, now, we kind of talked about draft last time, have how we kind of weigh risk versus value, how people sometimes overvalue a name player. But one of the things that I don't think has been talked about much, unless you're heavy into the devy world, is what do you do afterwards? You have a player now sitting on your team. You have to wait 2-3 years before they go into the NFL. Over that span of time, a lot can change. One of the ones that changed for me was Armon Richards. I have him in every single devy league, and of course, you can't expect injuries, career-ending injuries. But we have players that get suspended. We have players that lose playing time. Came in with great fanfare, maybe showed some flashes during their freshman or sophomore season, but something happened where they get overtaken by someone or they decide to transfer. So how do you deal with those ebb and flow of values in devy leagues?
Yeah, it's really tough because you kind of have to just project for it. You kind of have to say, um, as far as the changing depth chart and incoming, especially like the schools like Alabama, Clemson, the
Mm,
guys that really shuffle in new 4 or 5 star guys, you kind of have to project for who's probably going to get overtaken. Like, for example, with the Alabama wide receivers, with Jalen Waddle coming in and instantly having a role this year and kind of putting Devontae Smith on the back burner,
yeah.
you kind of had to see that coming, knowing that Ruggs is just the freak burner that he is, and knowing that Jerry Jeudy is the guy. So Ruggs probably has a role and holds an efficient role, and he did so this past season. But knowing that Waddle was, basically the top 1, 2, 3 wide receiver in his class, he was probably going to have a role. And if anybody was going to get shoved out, that would be Devontae Smith. So
Hmm.
I would have been telling everyone to fade him off of last year, even though it was just kind of a small sample for all the freshmen
Hmm.
wide receivers. So that kind of situation is a little bit less obvious. But as far as like the injuries, as far as the if somebody kind of just commits a crime,
Hmm. Yeah.
that I just completely fade them right away.
Mm.
Don't care. It's already a low hit percentage chance that they're going to mean anything in the NFL.
Mm.
If they have any baggage like that, it's obvious red flag for me. Transfers, the same thing. Most of the time, I haven't done. I need to work on building a model for the transfer success, but it's not good. If
Yeah.
you transfer in the middle of it and you go and have to sit out an entire year, It's just really hard to come back from that and have a decent looking production profile and get just enough reps to really just kind of take on a completely new role, completely new team, and find success after you transfer for wide receivers, especially running backs. Sometimes quarterbacks are a little bit different. They can kind of have one amazing season and still stand out and still get drafted. But as far as skill position players, transfers, I really stay away from that too. There are exceptions to the rule, but not many.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to your transfer model if that comes along, because this year,
Yeah,
especially, it's been a spike in transfer. The transfer portal's been busy. I even
yeah,
joked around that combined talent and the transfer portal could probably, get a shot at a division title or a conference title.
probably.
Yeah.
Given that Justin Fields would be the quarterback, that wouldn't be bad.
Oh, you have Justin Fields and Tate Martell as a backup, so
Yeah,
it's all the fun in there. I don't know what's going to happen. Of course, my school gets to benefit a lot from those transfers. We'll see what they do. We really did have a crushing blow on our recruiting, but we're making up through the transfers. But that's besides the point. Conversely, there are also situations where you know that this player is talented and that he only it was able to show flashes. Maybe being hampered by some injuries has reduced some of his playing time, but he later on does eventually find success in the NFL. How do you spot such a player? How do you hold on? Which players is worth holding on, and in thinking about the context?
like if they do transfer, or something happens, something happens in draw.
Just any devy players. So even if they are with the same team, but I'm thinking about Stephon Diggs, he had a great incoming hype throughout the college. It tailed off, and then back in the NFL, people go back and say we should have all seen this coming. He was great. He was fantastic, and it's like I don't know. I didn't see anything in his last few years in college.
Yeah, I think the context is really important, but we have to look at what they actually did when they were healthy, because that was the thing with Diggs. When he was fully healthy, which was not too often in college, he was actually really good. Obviously, Maryland doesn't they don't chuck the ball 50 times a game, but we probably should have seen it coming a little bit more so than we did, especially when, regardless of all the negatives happened, he still got some okay draft capital. Obviously, fifth rounders don't hit all the time, but there are players like that the pedigree fixes a lot of things. Because one, that the program is going to have a longer leash with them, giving them a chance to hop back into the fold immediately once they're healthy again. I mean, a 3-star guy, maybe he breaks out a little bit as a freshman, but then gets injured. They bring in a 4-star back. I'm not really confident that guy's going to keep his role. I'm not really investing a bunch of capital when I see somebody else coming in. Like, perfect example of that, Wan'Dale Robinson in Nebraska coming in this year. I think he's going to replace whatever they have at running back. Ozigbo just left. Was possibly going to be Mo Washington, but he got in trouble. And whatever else they have there left, I think I can't even remember who it is right now. An injury-prone Trey something and Greg Bell transferred last year. Like, it's going to be the Wan'Dale show there. And so I don't. Obviously, it's a good opportunity for those that are already there, but sometimes you just got to know the new guy coming in probably trumps whoever was there. And a lot of times it's just the pedigree, the 4-star, the 5-star guys that are gonna, easy to spot, overtaking the players who are already there. So I really, look for those opportunities of vacated production, but also don't assume that just that random 3-star is going to take the load and carry it either.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I feel like this applies more so to one of those prominent schools like Alabama, where year after year we say the backup running back is better than the one that's about to enter the draft. It keeps going. It keeps happening like that. Also seeing it with Clemson now, starting to see that was really high on Tevin Feaster, but now his opportunity is getting cut a little bit into by Travis Etienne and the guy who I talked with, Jason DiRienzo last time, Lynn J. Dixon. You familiar with him? Yeah. So those things are kind of how it drives us to know which players we prefer to hold on to, and also which players we should probably begin fading, like you mentioned. Any hints that you can give us who we should be targeting in trades? People who have forgotten about, but you know,
Hmm.
um, been talked about before that you think it's still worth holding on. He may not showed up great in 2018.
I think some people are just kind of forgetting about Jalen Rigger
Mm,
for TCU right now. He had an incredibly productive true freshman season. TCU was kind of a mess at quarterback at
yeah.
times last year due to injury with Sean Robinson, and now he's transferring, and people are going to forget about him, and they might not project him to have a hugely successful third season for TCU.
Hmm.
But I think he's somebody that has all the traits that you want to see and the early breakout age and production profile that checks a lot of boxes. So I think he's going to be a surprise that actually does have quite a bit of draft capital in the near future. So that's one player at wide receiver. I'd say a lot of people made discount, even though I value him near the first round of devy
Awesome. Yeah.
startups. And then Ricky Slade
Uh,
for Penn State
yes.
was just 1 year ago the number one or number two running back, and had to take a back seat to Miles Sanders
Hmm.
because Miles Sanders is fantastic and should be in the running back one conversation this year.
Yep.
And so Ricky Slade's kind of forgotten, and they brought in, I guess, Devin Ford, and they got a couple other options there. But I really think Ricky Slade is going to take off and control that backfield. He's just too balanced. He's a little bit smaller than you want to see for a feature, but Ricky Slade is going to take the reins in that backfield and blow up in devy value this year.
Oh, that's awesome, and that's awesome. Let me give you folks another hint if you want to pay attention to some of these names. Jalen Rager, as Travis mentioned, immediately came to mind when I played DFS. That's how I can remember some of these names.
Mm-hmm.
Daily fantasy just helps me, and now I'm also paying attention to Oklahoma State's the Chuba Hubbard, just because the name's weird, and he helped me win the GPP. So there,
Yeah.
just put it there.
Oh, man.
Justice Hills was great, but he was hurt. Then Chuba took over, and now he's on my radar. So
There you go.
sometimes even these outside of conference that I don't have as much information for can be source of information who you can pay attention to. Do you see something with Chuba?
I think so, and that opportunity is clearly. I mean, he's going to get fed this year. He's going to be the guy for Oklahoma State in that backfield. He's obviously a little bit bigger than Justice Hill too. I think he holds up and has a really solid, productive season. And if he does, just by nature of his size combo and production combo, there, I think he's going to get a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually eligible for 2020, I believe. So
Ah,
he could be another one that sneaks in if he decides to go next year. I think given his limited production so far, he might choose to stay anyway.
mm-hmm.
So we'll see with him, but he's definitely somebody to keep to keep on your radar.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for just going with me in this like different direction that we didn't plan to talk about. So
It's all
now,
good.
now we get to the main event. Everyone's been waiting for. We are going to dive into Travis's mind, and we're going to pick on the game for Eno Benjamin. Eno Benjamin plays for Arizona State. That team is that the team that Herm Edwards took over, or is that the other Arizona?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is
yeah,
the
and
team.
that actually wasn't the end of the world. I think a lot of people thought he was going to fail miserably. And
Yeah, absolutely. When his comments about recruiting is you know, whatnot, and having trouble with his quarterback who didn't want to wait. Was it this quarterback? But in any case, Arizona State actually finished the season pretty well.
Yeah, 7-6. It's not you're not lighting anybody up here, but
Right.
I think a lot of people thought it was just going to be rebuilding year.
Yeah. Nope. And one of the reasons for this is, aside from Enkil Harry, who will be in this year's draft, is Eno Benjamin. So tell me a little bit about his background before we dive into his film. What have you known about him? Why are you excited about him?
So, Benjamin, obviously, he was highly recruited out of high school. I believe he actually injured himself in the Army. I can't remember the name of it. The
All-American?
Army game.
The All-American
All
All-Star?
American. Yeah, All American. Yeah, Army All American All Star game. He actually injured himself, which kind of put him behind the eight ball coming in as a true freshman. Missed all the spring activities and really was just late to even doing anything at all. So he really didn't do just about anything as a true freshman. And really, they had Kalen Balaj ahead of him, and Demario Richard or Richard. I don't know
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is. But anyway, they had two kind of meh backs, but
Hmm.
he was just obviously it wasn't his time. But when he was finally actually given the reins and finally actually given the opportunity, he answered the call there in a big way. I mean, he had what 1,600 ish yards
Hmm.
this
That's
past year,
amazing. Yeah.
so that's pretty decent, and
Hmm.
almost 20 combined touchdowns. He showed he could catch the ball too in a big way. 35 receptions doesn't sound like a lot, but in 13 games in college, that's decent
Hmm.
production as far as a receiving back goes. It's not James Williams who is entering the draft this year with over 200 receptions
Yeah.
on his career, but it's a start for Benjamin. So I like him a lot. The only knock people really could possibly have is his size, but
Mm.
I think he has everything else.
Yeah, he's here listed on ESPN as 5'10", 201 pounds. Could stand to add a little bit more. Height is always a concern when it comes to college. College reported measurable versus actual measurable, but
Hmm.
it's pretty good. His stats: he has a 5.5 average yards per carry. I know that's not that. They need more context for that, but it pops out right when you look into his how he finished the season. So let's dive in. We're going to look into his first play here. We have a 20 personnel, even box, 6 defenders, and we're gonna play the film, and you can just let me know, what you want to touch on, and
Sure.
uh, what you're seeing here.
Yeah. So takes the carry, obviously pops it outside. A lot of quick decision making here. I mean, he has to basically decide, okay, I've got to up, can't get in that hole, got to pop outside and plants his foot. And even this last little jet there, he kind of puts his hand down and adds just a little bit more at the end of the play. That's a nice little cut there to avoid, the gap's supposed to be right where his right foot is,
No, wow.
and it just doesn't happen. So he bounces that out and really doesn't lose much speed at all, and
Oh.
really just finishes with his pads down and falls forward as he so often does. Arizona State's got a weird offense,
Mhm.
and they're not really great, and their quarterback isn't really a much of a threat. Harry made him look really good at times, but he's not. Manny Wilkins is just not that great at all.
Oh man.
So,
Yeah.
uh, and you mentioned his yards per carry, that 5.5 average. I believe that's actually what Saquon Barkley had his final season too. So yards per carry is okay,
Hmm.
but it's definitely not an end all be all. Um, and
Yeah.
so it's what I really look for is, how many yards are they getting before contact? Like,
Mm.
is their offense creating any room for them? Are they having to create everything? Right.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw a little bit of what you highlighted there. Do you see that as something that he does consistently, where he's able to make decisions quickly, knowing when the hole is not there?
Yeah, I believe so. He's just got really decisive feet. Can just reads traffic really well. Has the agility you want to see. On this play here that you're showing, he does this again. Makes a lot of quick split second decisions, one hop step through the gap, and even puts his hand down just to kind of push himself forward to get that extra half yard. I see him do that kind of thing all the time. And just for context with this matchup, I chose this game because Washington was a top 5 to 10 defense in all of college football, especially against the run. Yet he had over 100 yards in this game anyway.
Wow.
And it's not a super flashy highlight reel type film type game, but
Hmm.
that's not why I'm excited about this. I'm excited about his discipline and ability to add yards after contact and ability to create on his own,
Hmm.
regardless of the matchup. And he does that and just about on every carry, he's just adding just a little bit more.
Yeah, and
So
that's all you can ask for in the NFL when games are quicker, games are faster. You have to make that decision right there because the gap is not going to hold up for that long. So for someone to have his processing, I think that's a very a positive for him. Is that what you kind of see throughout his film in every other game as well?
yeah, and really he succeeds in a lot of different personnel packages too. Arizona State uses a lot of motion and a lot of packages that border on 20 personnel and 11 personnel.
Mm.
But they also use some heavier looks and really go empty sometimes. Really go 10 personnel, like with 4 wide receivers. They do just about everything,
Hmm.
just from a personnel standpoint. And, gets through the traffic regardless. So I'm excited about that for him. On this play,
Mm-hmm.
it's 12 personnel, obviously kind of a goal line look. They've got a bunch of guys in the box, and that's one thing I'll look at or look at
Mm-hmm.
is how many defenders they have in the box. And they've got, if you look at just up front, they've got like 6 right on the line and really 9 or 10 in the box. And when I say in the box, it's like within 7 yards of the line of scrimmage
Are you talking
and
about all?
between the ends of the offensive line there for you. And so
So
they got a pretty well stacked, and he turns this out anyway.
let's see what that happens in this play. Heavy box. Oh wow.
He kind of, and obviously it's just a goal line play. It's just something, nothing flashy. But again, against Washington, you're not going to get a whole lot of flash.
Yeah.
He almost scored on the previous play, and this time he gets his feet churning and really gets his head down right before the line. Kind of runs right into a defender, head down, nice pad level, and finishes. And that's, obviously it's, again, I'm not looking for flash all the time when I'm scouting these players, especially against these tough matchups. You just want to see somebody who's technically sound
Mm-hmm.
and kind of overcomes the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, nothing crazy, but we can move on to the next play.
Yeah, absolutely. So just as I am looking up the next play, would you say that this is typical for a young running back like him? This is his actual first season, right? You mentioned in his true freshman year, he didn't had to contribute much. Was playing behind Balaj, was playing behind Richards, and so some of the things you highlight here as I'm looking into this film, understanding pad level, understanding where the gaps are. Is this typical of young running backs in the college?
No, and I don't think so. I think sometimes they want to get downhill,
Mm-hmm.
and right here you can't really tell. And if you put it in slow motion, you could kind of tell,
Mm-hmm.
but he kind of just there's a little bit of a hesitation before he hops through that hole here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a strange personnel package, by the way. It's like, I mean, it's either whatever you want to call it, it's 21 or really 30,
30.
like 3 guys in the backfield,
Mm-hmm.
and he follows his blockers, just waits and hops over, getting the contact there. Almost gets sucked in by an arm tackle here, but bounces outside and forces another missed tackle. So I love his quick twitch reaction. Boom, just that sidesteps, keeps his feet turning and resets and again finishes strong. Realizes he's not gonna, he's not gonna go for a touchdown, but he's gonna get a little bit extra there.
Yeah.
So, but again, I'm looking at how many defenders in the box, how many blockers are in place, and they kind of slide in and have 7 defenders, make it an even box situation. But one of those situations where there's a lot of traffic to get through, but he finds a way anyway.
Yeah, that is actually kind of amazing what he does here. Most young running backs, immature running backs, either try to force something to happen or just haven't had the patience to bounce this outside. But he also has balance here.
Amazing
He's thinking
balance
a lot.
off of contact. I mean, he's coming off of avoiding one arm tackle, stiff arming out of another arm tackle, and then sidesteps and keeps going. So
Wow.
it's a lot of great traits going on all at the same time. And it's not a huge highlight play, but again, he's just what you want to see.
Yeah. So this will highlight another aspect of his play in this one. Can you talk a little bit about what you see here and what you're looking for in a running back that tells you that he read the play correctly? What happened? My bad.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm. So
228.
228. Yeah.
So really, obviously, I think if I remember this play correctly, the quarterback almost gets sacked, but Benjamin just finds space out in the flat. He doesn't run a whole lot of routes as a pass catcher, but he's got good hands and solid awareness to know where the sticks are to finish the play. So let's check it out.
Let's check it out.
Kind of slides out. Hey, I'm open, and hey, look, I go from 0 to 60 and get to the sticks. Again, it's not like I'm not taking all 43 yards to the house, but just as a lot of quick decisions to catch. He catches the ball. He's facing the quarterback, turns, one step, recognizes the situation, and gets downfield. And it's just the little things like that that go overlooked with a lot of players. But he finds a space and makes really quick decisions to help out his quarterback.
Yeah.
Did this a couple other times in this game, actually.
Yeah, and that picking up first down is huge. I know a lot of people want to look for those flashy big play, but like you mentioned, for him it's the little things,
Yeah.
and just making that shift. I think what I'm really impressed by is this ability to turn around, not lose too much momentum, and just go.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
If you
So,
want flash, you can go watch that Oregon State game. I mean, they're bad. They're a bad defense,
mhm.
but against top 5, 6, 7 defense in the country, you're gonna just have to really digest the little things for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned this is a top end defense that's not easy. What did they rank coming into this game, or not even coming into this, but overall,
Well,
what
the
was?
whole season, their opponents averaged, I think it was the fifth fewest points per game on the year,
Hmm.
and as a team, they allowed just over 100 yards per game.
Wow.
But that's an entire rushing, not just one player. Yeah, I think he had 104 rushing yards, 20-ish receiving, something like that in this game.
Hmm.
So that's a bad game, by the way, for Smith,
Benjamin?
Benjamin
Okay.
this year. He just blew up the stats column. But I chose this game just because, I mean, even against the really tough teams,
Hmm.
his execution, his discipline, his consistency down to down is just remarkable.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really hard to watch and not get excited. And if you want flash, I mean, his agility in open space, we didn't really have much in this
Hmm.
this game, but you can watch that in other games for sure. But he carried the ball 26 times
Oh, wow.
this game,
That's a horse
and just
workload.
yeah. So for a smaller guy, he can definitely carry the load.
Hmm. And as you mentioned, as we are going through this, it really just sparks up why I see other people excited about him. Before we started, I told you that Matt Waldman got onto him, and then I see a couple of people that I really do respect their college, and this is not fantasy related. They were still impressed by Benjamin.
Oh
So
yeah.
this is a guy that you all have to look out for. He's 2020 eligible.
Yeah, 2020 eligible, and he's not a guy that's in the running back one overall discussion for anybody, but he's right on the fringe. He's the first name out for a lot of people, and I think he's a top 5 back
Hmm.
next year. Gets some day 2 draft capital, and I think he does add just a little bit more weight, and gets in that range where you want to see a guy 5'10", 210, something like that.
Yeah, a little bit, add a little
At
bit
least,
weight. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, and guys, just this highlights why we're excited about the 2020 class. We're having bringing these running backs. You'll hear other names, and Benjamin's not even in the top of them, and yet we're seeing something very, very much translatable skill to the NFL, right?
for sure.
Yeah. So let's look into this last play. I think this is an outside run type of play or bounce outside. So what do you see
Yeah.
here? What are we looking for?
Yeah, so it's really simple. This is more of like a typical pro look. I mean, maybe your tight end is in line instead of kind of back off of the line like he is there. But a lot of times Arizona State runs some weird stuff. But this is a pretty typical pro look. The defense is faking. Double A got blitz,
Hmm.
even box. But obviously, Benjamin recognizes, hey, if they actually do come, I'm going to have to bounce outside. So let's see what he does here.
All right. As we see the play develop, stack box. Or,
Yep, they kind of bounce out, but they recognize it's a run, and he kicks it out immediately. And some guys would try to kick it way out to the sideline, get outside this last defensive back and the wide receiver blocking,
hmm.
but he's concerned about the maximum yards on every play. He could try to just get to the sideline and take that edge, but he's like, nah. If I just run straight outside, there's 3 defenders in my face. I'm probably gonna actually lose yards from where I am. So first off, he kicks it outside, and his acceleration automatically gives him a free 7, 8 yards. And rather than trying to kick it out to the sideline like a scared tiny little back might, he actually says, "Hey, there's 3 guys right there. I'm just gonna go pads down and get an extra 3 yards."
All
And
right.
so,
Okay, so I
yeah,
want to highlight something here, like you mentioned, and that is some maturity in his running. I think this was what I picked up from watching other people describe what to watch for in running back. So he doesn't bounce outside immediately. He goes as close as to the line of scrimmage as possible. Um, would you say that this is a very even matchup between the O line and D line right here?
Yeah, I mean it's a mess right there because
Yeah.
Arizona State's not great up
Mm-hmm.
front. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean it's 6 on 6.
Yeah.
If you looked at a pre-snap, it was 6 blockers, 6 defenders in there.
Mm-hmm.
But and that the defender that's on the outside kind of steps up too to try to defend
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
number 5 last second. But they're expecting the run here,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's 3rd and 5.
Right.
So kind of waits,
Mm-hmm.
sucks that outside defender in and then bounces, and it's too late for
Here,
anybody to really adjust.
yeah. Here's what I'm looking at too as you're describing that. Number 5 has the defense not allowing him to bounce out. If he had gone out earlier from here, like what most young running back would do, he could have been stopped short before
Yeah,
the
it's
first
really
down.
it's really bad defense also by
Mm-hmm.
I mean his job is probably to edge contain there, and
Mm-hmm. He
he
got
got
caught
sucked in.
inside. He did get caught
But
inside. Yeah.
yeah, it's college. They
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes
Sure.
just like the pros do. So
Mm-hmm. So about here, he could have gotten caught from behind, but he does continue to press the line as much as possible. Contributed to some of that, and then oh wow, yeah.
almost decides to kick it out, but then changes his mind and realizes, nope, I'm just going to take what I can because he's an efficient runner. He
Mm-hmm.
just makes the right decision over and over again.
Awesome. And that is some of the traits, guys, that we look for. We're not always looking for the highlight plays. We're not always looking for the exciting plays to identify some of the good players that were coming out. There's going to be plenty of those. You're going to probably see in the next year's class with Travis Etienne coming in, with Cam Akers likely declaring. I really hope he does. It's FSU is bias, whatever you want to call it. FSU is not in a good place right now.
No, they're not.
And certainly other great names that I can't recall. Oh, DeAndre Swift, is he eligible next year?
Yeah, DeAndre Swift. I
DeAndre
mean,
Swift.
you've got even guys like AJ Dillon and Jonathan Taylor, and
Right.
there's a bunch of guys to get excited about for 2020 at the running back position, but
Mm-hmm.
even at wide receiver, there's just a lot of players to get pumped about. But
Mm-hmm.
watch a little bit more, and against some softer competition too, because he makes them look like they're high school players. It's just funny to see them, put people on skates. And I always want to see what they do against the best
Mm-hmm.
competition. And when they succeed there too, it's kind of a no-brainer. So
Excellent. So I'll let this play a little bit in the background as we sign off. Thank you so much, Travis, for just helping us continue to develop our processes, continue to develop how we should think about in terms of devy leagues, because this is valuable information and we're not telling you this player or that player. We're telling you what to look for and how you can make informed decisions, and even start doing a little bit of this when you have some free time. And like Travis, when he has his lunch break, he starts thinking about football. Thank you so much for joining me. Why don't you tell folks again where they can find you, where they can find your work, get connected with you? What are you up to during this busy off season of the NFL?
well, you can always find me on Twitter at ff_Travis M. You can join the Slack for the Dynasty Command Center to find me and Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell and a whole bunch of other really helpful Dynasty minds there. And check out our rookie guides. We got the 2nd edition dropping here soon.
Awesome.
3rd edition is coming after the NFL draft, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then really just excited about some work I'm doing over at RotoViz, working on a new production score, adjusted production index there, and going to have a series on that. And then talking more about my charting process for running backs. I'll be doing that there in the near future with some of these incoming rookies, and some of my charting work in terms of pre-snap alignment, data, routes run, and success like that will be in the rookie guides as well for Dynasty Command Center. So I'm excited. It's been a lot of work this off season, just prepping for a bunch of different things, but I'm going to be still busy for another month or two as we head towards the NFL draft. But it's all exciting stuff. So thanks again for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. We're very fortunate to have guys like you who are awesome, both on the Twitterverse and the articles that you release. Guys, this is another episode of A Dynasty Mind. This is a production of Fake Pigskin. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope that you continue to sharpen that process. Have a good night, Travis.
Yeah, you too, Chris.